Today we're talking about the Collector so that I can show you how I did this. The Collector is an encounter and boss fight. You're first introduced to the Collector through the Brewer of Hues fable, which adds Verminia to your Nightfold. After that quest is complete, an objective called Hark the Collector becomes one of the possible end encounters for Sparrow's Tales. The Collector probably refers either to this giant ship that appears to collect the resources the Ode are taking from Midrath, or to Mada, who seems to be in charge of the collection process. I think it's the ship because it seems odd that Mada would say,
"Hark the Collector!"
if they themselves are the Collector, but who knows, maybe they have that kind of ego. Anytime the Collector comes up as an end encounter for a Sparrow's Tale, there is a chance that one of the other objectives in your tale will be to fetch a Thunderstone. A Thunderstone is this round explosive that you can either use to destroy an Odin Beiselchem or save to use to destroy the Collector. The only way to get a Thunderstone at the moment is through this quest objective, and you can only hold one at a time. If you pick one up and don't use it, your envoy will have it and be able to use it on future Collectors or Beiselchems until you log out, even though no icon for it appears in your inventory. Once you arrive at a collection site, the ship appears, the skies darken with a thunderstorm, Mada's dialogue begins, and the encounter starts with a wave battle. During this phase of the fight, each wave of enemies will spawn when you have killed all but one of the enemies from the wave before. If you have a Thunderstone, this is when you need to decide how you want to end this encounter. Somewhere nearby you'll find a cage with baby deer inside. You can interact with the cage to let the deer out and put the Thunderstone in their place. If you do this, then after 5 waves of enemies, the Collector will take the cage and the Thunderstone will destroy the ship, successfully completing the encounter without needing to do the final boss fight. This results in a shorter Sparrow's Tale for more efficient faction grinding, but if you want to fight the boss, you should not use the Thunderstone here. You cannot free these baby deer without a Thunderstone to put in their place, and DE, this is terrible! My dreams are haunted by sad deer sounds. I wish we could free the deer regardless of whether or not we have a Thunderstone, and choose not to use a Thunderstone if we actually want to fight the final boss. During the 3rd wave of enemies, Mada will have a few more lines of dialogue, and during the 4th wave, the Collector will start beaming metal boxes up to the ship. One of your quest objectives is to knock these boxes out of the beam so they can't be taken. An audio cue will let you know when a box is being lifted towards the ship. If you're playing in a group, keep in mind that this cue doesn't always play if you're not the host, so you'll have to keep watch for the boxes instead of listening for the sound. Anytime the Collector successfully takes a box, Mada will laugh at you. The Collector can attempt to take 5 boxes total over the course of the entire encounter. The deer cage will always be taken during the 5th wave of enemies between the 1st and 2nd box, and this is the only object you cannot knock down or break while it's getting beamed away, so if you want to save the deer, you must do so before they get collected. If you end the encounter before the Collector can beam up all 5 boxes, either by using the Thunderstone or killing the boss, you will get credit for saving the boxes the Collector didn't get a chance to collect. So, for example, if I knock down the 1st box, miss the 2nd, knock down the 3rd, and then defeat the boss, I'll get credit for saving 4 out of 5 boxes. If you defeat the boss or destroy the ship while one of the boxes is in a tractor beam, you get credit for saving that one too. If you miss all 5 boxes, you will fail the encounter. This will cause your Sparrow's Tale to get stuck, but if you quickly relog, you will be able to run back to the collection site to try again. The only reward for saving all 5 boxes seems to be the satisfaction for having done so. I'd love to see some kind of incentive added in future updates. Perhaps the drop chance for fragments could increase with the number of boxes you save. After you've killed 5 waves of enemies, there will be a brief pause in combat, and then Mada will summon Nimrod for you to fight. Nimrod has a pretty decent chunk of HP and can get imbued with lightning, causing him to heal himself. You can both strip this buff and prevent it from happening by using a Cloud Quell potion, just like in Verminia's quest. You can get 1 Cloud Quell per day for free from Verminia in your Nightfold, and you can buy as many as you like from Avocot, although you have to purchase them one at a time. 2 ads will spawn with Nimrod. If you kill them off first and then take your time killing Nimrod, they will eventually spawn again. There does not appear to be a time limit for defeating Nimrod, and if you die you can revive to keep fighting. Nimrod's attacks share animations with other polearm-wielding enemies. He is huge though, so he has a ton of range, and his attacks completely fill your stagger bar. Otherwise, this fight is pretty straightforward. As long as you intercept at least 1 box and kill Nimrod, you will successfully complete the encounter and get your Sparrow's Tale reward. Alright, so let's talk about this. As I was testing headshot multipliers for my last video, I started to wonder just how much damage I could get out of one shot. Maybe I'm just overly excited for the buildcraft possibilities coming with Preludes 10, but I decided to play around with what we currently have in-game to see what kind of numbers I could generate. I tested things out on low-level archers because they seem to have the least damage reduction of any enemy type, so my numbers would be more consistent. Tethren's Fell Lust is easily the best damage multiplier in Preludes 9, so that had to be my pact. I used the upgrades that would give me Grace and Courage and then put what was left into Conqueror for health regen and Everbound for the extra HP. I didn't add any Spirit at all because neither Fell Lust nor Call of the Ancients have durations that scale with Spirit. I also used the pact motes that would buff my Grace and Courage the most. I went with Juniper for my weapon because it has better damage than Thistle, but it also helps that its attunement cap is 24 instead of 28. This let me put 4 extra points into Courage, which would get more damage out of Fell Lust. Now it was time for some testing. If anyone from DE is watching, I'm begging you, please put target dummies somewhere in the game. After many hours of stacking Fell Lust and chasing down low-level archers to test on, the best headshot I got hit for 1,729 damage. I did use Call of the Ancients for that extra bit of damage. I think this number would be higher if I picked either Grace or Courage during the Orangol quest, but since I picked Spirit, the highest I can get my Courage is 29. Still, that's not bad at all. But wait, if Howl buffs Courage and Fell Lust scales with Courage, would Howl buff Fell Lust? Yes, it does, and the result is a hilarious amount of damage. After much trial and error, we discovered that Fell Lust snapshots your Courage when you cast it. Howling when you take your 5th shot does nothing to increase your damage, but howling when you cast Fell Lust will give you the increase even if the howl has run out by the time you shoot. This must have to do with the way Howl buffs Courage instead of buffing damage directly, because Call of the Ancients must be active when you take your shot for it to buff your damage. With Call of the Ancients running and a fully stacked Fell Lust buffed by Howl, my headshot got up to 1,947 damage. Now, testing these delightful numbers on low-level archers is interesting for figuring out how things work, but it got me wondering, is it possible to one-shot Nimrod? Yes it is, and you don't even need to go all out to do it. I honestly expected that I would need a fully maxed out build and the buffs from both Howl and Call of the Ancients to get this to work, but a charged shot from a fully stacked Tethren was enough even with no buffs and only 25 Courage. In fact, it's possible you don't even need that much Courage, I just didn't test it with less than 25. Even more interesting is that my headshot on Nimrod at 29 Courage hit for 1,916 damage, only 31 damage less than on a level 2 archer, meaning his damage reduction is way less than I thought it would be. This is probably going to be irrelevant fairly soon since armor and damage types are changing in Preludes 10, but I thought it was interesting to know anyway. I should also mention that I'm not actually sure if Nimrod himself can appear at different levels, although I did all of my one-shots in the highest areas of the map, both for consistency and because it's currently very easy to spawn a collector fight up there. So, is this the fastest way to kill Nimrod? Well, technically yes, but practically no. Obviously the one-shot itself is about as fast as kills get, but setting everything up for this is probably trickier than it's worth. For starters, you need to stack your Fell Lust by getting 4 successful hits on adds before you shoot Nimrod. You can do this by perfectly planning out your attacks on the 5th wave of enemies, but that means making sure you kill the last add with your 4th shot. If you do, then you'll be ready to hit Nimrod in the face as soon as he spawns, and this genuinely is the fastest way to kill him. If you don't have your stacks ready, you'd have to build your stacks on the adds that spawn with him. Sometimes this is really easy, but if he spawns with even 1 shield enemy, then building stacks takes much longer. A blocked hit will eat 2 charges from Fell Lust, meaning you can't get to max damage, so you have to dump your stacks and start over. This gets really annoying very quickly, and it's just not worth it when you can easily get your stacks on Nimrod himself if you're not specifically trying to kill him in one shot. Nimrod's headshot hitbox is also way smaller than you'd think. The tall hats on most enemies still count as headshots. Nimrod's hat has a hitbox, so you can hit it, but it will not count as a headshot. His shoulders also seem to have huge hitboxes, so if you hit him during the wrong part of his animation, the arrow will hit the top of his shoulder instead of his head. To get the headshot multiplier, you have to shoot him directly in the face, and I don't think it's possible to one-shot Nimrod without that multiplier, at least not in Preludes 9. Hitting the shot is definitely possible, and it's deeply satisfying once you've done it, but this is absolutely not the easiest way to fight Nimrod. If you're using Tethren, it's going to be a lot easier to just nail him with body shots, which takes only a few seconds longer even if you're stacking your Fell Lust on him. In general, I'd say Ode Tempest is probably the best pact for fighting Nimrod. Honestly, that pact just makes everything in the game way easier. It's the Revenant of Soulframe. And of course, even if one-shotting Nimrod is technically the fastest way to kill him, the fastest way to complete the Collector encounter is still the Thunderstone. So really, this is just something to do for fun, and it is very fun. I highly recommend trying it out if you get the chance. If you find other ways to get even more damage out of charged headshots, let me know in the comments, especially if you made a different choice in the Orengal quest. I was pretty surprised by how much just a single point of courage could affect Fellust's damage multiplier. I hope you enjoyed my first foray into Buildcraft. Huge thanks to Maverick for many howls and tons of patience. If you'd like to support my channel, likes and comments are super helpful, and subscribe if you want to see more Soulframe content. Here's hoping my next vid finally gets to cover what's new in Preludes 10. Until next time, happy hunting!